Why did Roman bankers disappear from the historical record between AD 260 and the 4th century? Roman bankers disappeared from the historical record likely because of economic difficulties caused by the debasement of the currency. A coin is said to be debased if the quantity of gold, silver, copper, or nickel in the coin is reduced. Starting with Nero, in AD 64, the Romans continuously debased their silver coins until, by the end of the 3rd century, hardly any silver was left. The continued debasement of the currency hurt the economy, creating difficulties for the banking profession. By the mid-4th century AD, the argentarii and numerarii are mentioned again in ancient sources. They had acquired different roles. There is, however, evidence consistent with a qualitative decline in the activity of professional bankers. According to Professor Andro, argentarii are not attested as deposit bankers between 260 and the last third of the 4th century AD. Then, in about 330 to 340, the term reappears. At this time, however, it was applied to silversmiths, not to money changers, whereas in the past, argentarius used on its own had never designated a metalworker. Towards the end of the century, these silversmiths began in their turn to accept deposits and became money changers, deposit bankers, but they did not play, as in the past, any part in auctions, and they also practiced as silversmiths. The numerarii, also deposit bankers, are not mentioned during the first half of the 4th century. On one of the trapezites of the Greek part of the empire, outside Egypt, none is attested in the first half of the century, but that does not prove that they had in effect disappeared. In Egypt, where thanks to the papyri documentation is more abundant, we know for sure that some banks, both public and private, continued to function. What caused the decline of the banking system? It would be difficult to identify external shocks to the economy or general problems in economic growth that would lead specifically to the disappearance of banks. There are, however, two inscriptions from the early 3rd century referring to exceptional measures applicable solely to the banking business, which related to commerce and food supplies at Rome. But these inscriptions are unclear in import. In what follows Andro's observations concerning signs of problems already in the 2nd century and inflation after the mid-3rd century, together with Bagnall's insight citing maximum interest rate laws and inflation, are fully developed to demonstrate that the observed deterioration of the banking system and lending generally was a direct result of government economic policy and fiscal politics. Along the way, the paper demonstrates the applicability of economic theory to the Roman economy, considers the problem of token versus commodity money, and clarifies the relation between coinage, debasement, and inflation. Causes of the decline. The legal maximum interest rate. We know that Roman law mandated a legal maximum interest rate of 12% per year and that the state enforced this restriction. Andro notes, under the Principate as well as in the last century of the Republic, we know of many cases in which the interest charged was well below that limit. And he adds, there are several mentions of holders of capital unable to find borrowers. These mentions are somewhat suspect, however. Pliny the Younger does tell Trajan that he cannot find anyone to borrow from one of Bithynia's cities at the prevailing 9%. But he adds that he also cannot find property to buy with the idle funds. This is exceedingly strange. In Petronius Satricum, funds are returned to the treasury because no investment was forthcoming for the substantial sum. It is not clear that a loan is involved. It is clear that 1. Many borrowers were paying at least the maximum interest rate. 2. Lenders were using various devices to charge more than the maximum, including penalties, disguising interest payments as repayment of capital, possibly deducting interest in advance, and not putting illegal rates into writing. 3. In order to get loans, borrowers agreed to these devices and then refused to pay the agreed interest. 4. The court supported defaulting borrowers against the lenders. An exception proves the rule. Debtors contend in vain that they do not have to pay interest to their creditors who are minors, because, as they testify, such creditors are possessed of the senatorial rank. Therefore, debtors shall repay the principal with the interest as set forth in their stipulations. One way well wonder what happened to the vaunted Roman good faith. On the other hand, perhaps only a few broke their promises and complained to the authorities. What is clear is that the state did not have to rely entirely on its own limited means to enforce maximum rates of interest. It could count on the active assistance of self-interested borrowers seeking to reduce their debt burden.